In this video, I've taken a professional video camera and I've put it in a normal position such that there's no lens distortion in the near and far field, and the center of the lens is right at the center of the key, so that you'll have a realistic and undistorted view optically of what I'm going to illustrate. In my prior video of the arch and the string that I put on my wrist to get an arch position through the finger, through the bridge, through the hand, where the string is holding up at the arch, where the arch in the wrist is supporting the arch in the hand, so you have a total arch. That, by necessity, forces a slight downward angle from the wrist to the elbow, which is somewhat against classical teaching, wherein, especially like Taubman shows in their videos, that the arm angle should be horizontal or parallel with the key. What that would do if you supported the arch is it would force the arm angle to be several inches higher. Now I'll get up my tape measure here and show that you would have an arm angle if you supported, had an initial, call a baseline position of the wrist being part of this arch. In this case, my key, white key, is roughly at 30 inches off the floor, and the height of my hand here and the arch, because I have long fingers particularly, would be roughly 2 or 3 inches above the white key, so that my hand angle at the peak of the arch would be roughly 33 inches, or 3 inches from the key to the bottom of my hand angle or arch, where I'm trying to keep the hand angle roughly similar, roughly parallel with the key to support that arch, which causes the wrist to go from a baseline here to a baseline here. It also causes a drop in the arm unless I sit up high enough to compensate for that, and if I sit up high enough to compensate for that, I lose the wrist arch. So the fact that the wrist has an arch in it here, by definition, requires a drop from that arch. So that we have that required drop, we have a required drop angle in the arm. If you notice, Glenn Gould played with a drop in his arm. It certainly did not impede his incredible speed and agility. I don't know how anyone could argue otherwise, but that doesn't necessarily mean others don't have just as high a speed and agility as Glenn Gould. So I'm not saying that it's a necessity that you have this slight drop in the forearm, but I'm also saying that I don't believe that it impedes anything. It certainly allows the support, the physical structure and support of the hand and the finger in a superior way. Not everything that is in or unsuperior to that arch necessarily means that the playing is bad playing. It just means that it might be improved if one were to have this structure rather than this structure. So what I've done is I've lowered my bench a little bit below where I used to play in order to allow sitting up straight here with good back support, a slight lean forward, placing my hand here on C5, and allowing my wrist arch to be where it is here. Let's now look at the tape measure and see, once again, my baseline for my key is roughly 30 inches. My baseline for my wrist is roughly 33 inches, 3 inches above, and the baseline of my elbow that supports that position is roughly what here? Where are we? We're roughly 28, 29 inches, around 29 inches, I think. Yep, depending on how you look at my elbow through my shirt, it's roughly 29 inches. So I've got about a 4 or 5 inch drop from 33 to 29. That's 4 inches. So I've got roughly a 4 inch drop from here to here. And that's what I'm concluding is the consequence, shall we say, of having a default position, a baseline position of a wrist arch. Now, of course, you'd argue, well, you're not always going to be up this high. Of course not, but if you're this high, you can come down like this. In the dynamics of playing, you are going to get this action and this action. And so when you come down to the lower position of the rebounding of an attack, guess what? Your lower position is going to be pretty much 30, 31 inches. So having this position results in a baseline such that when you're coming down on a rebound, you're in a fairly flat position with respect to the hand and the wrist, not lower. It's very interesting, isn't it?